Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another special session combined with the Great Canadian Aftermarket Trade Show and the Great Canadian Aftermarket Podcast. If you're watching on video, you will see that presented by Delphi Technologies, our podcast sponsor. If you're listening, you will already know that. The issue of training, particularly those coming into the industry at the technician level, is an apprentice level is not a new one, to be honest. Initiatives to move the ball on this forward are always welcome. Very recently, the Automotive Industries Association of Canada did just that and created an initiative that has combined the resources of the AIA, of some colleges in the space, and I think a little bit of government money in there, so our dollars too. To kind of cover this off with me today is Beth Steele. She's the project manager for innovation in automotive training at the Automotive Industries Association of Canada. We have Saif Sanai. He is professor of automotive technology at St. Lawrence College. Stephen Patterson is the Dean, Faculty of Science, Trades and Technology at Fanshawe College. And Kevin Bell is the RSE coordinator, professor, School of Trades, apprenticeship at Conestoga College. Welcome all.
Here, thanks, Andrew.
Yeah. Beth, I kind of introduced it, but in sort of 10 words or less, I did. But what is the the kind of nuts and bolts of this initiative from AIA Canada, and what's it meant to address?
Thank you first of all for having us, Andrew, today. So we're recognizing that there is within our workforce two main things. We have a skills shortage where our technicians are a little bit not able to get the training that they need in order to service the new automobiles and technology that's coming out, and that we're needing to attract more people into the automotive trade. So being able to attract new people. The basic premise of this is that we have EV upskilling, so really getting automotive tradespeople really embedded into what's required to service and repair EVs, which are coming at us hard, and also to attract more people to consider a trade in the to consider a career in the trades, in the automotive trades. So.
We've certainly looked at some things, along similar lines, over the years. Obviously, EVs are, front and center. But I'll just go to Safe, at St. Lawrence College, and ask him what are you seeing coming in through your doors there, and how do you see, the need for a specific initiative like this?
Well, when we're seeing coming through the doors, like at my shop, my own business, we see a lot of EVs arriving now, coming out of warranty, and it's very hard to find technicians that have the skill, the aptitude to repair these cars. That's a huge challenge. Sending out a advertising saying you're looking for someone that's EV qualified, you don't really get too many responses because a lot of today's technicians are actually scared to work on EVs. So to get them comfortable in it, that is a challenge because what happens is that some of them don't even want to show up to some training because I run some training programs, right? The EV upskill that we get people to come in. My biggest job there is to convince them, to make them really comfortable with the high voltage, right? And basically get that stigma away where it's they're like, well, I can get hurt on this thing. So the biggest challenge would be to kind of convince them that, hey, we can work on these vehicles in a safe way, and they're not as dangerous as you think if you're working on them properly.
For again, an automotive world and experienced technicians who are used to dealing mostly with low voltage, notwithstanding the occasional shock from a coil pack.
Yeah.
Kevin, is this what you're seeing too? Or is there a comfort level with EVs that's missing? Is that a generational thing, or I mean, what do you see, Kevin?
A little column A, a little column B. Some of it is the scare behind, hey, this is a lot of voltage and I can hurt myself. But I think a bigger part of it is the technology. And we saw this back in the 90s when airbags first started showing up in cars, and nobody wanted to touch an airbag. No, no, you got to take that back to the dealer. We're not touching that airbag. It could explode. Well, turns out we all got used to airbags and we all understand how they work. And there were very few people that were actually injured servicing an airbag. And now we're into the next phase of that, which is EVs, and a significantly bigger change than we saw in airbags. But I think it's the stigma behind, I don't know how that works, so I'm not going to touch it. Yes, there is a risk that I could be electrocuted. And you and I know that those risks are pretty minimal, if almost non-existent. But it's the unawareness of what the technology is that is keeping people away from it. And I think this program, along with others and just training in general, if we can make people aware, make the technicians aware that it's really not that different. In fact, it's a lot simpler because there's so many fewer moving pieces and parts, and we don't have chains, and we don't have gaskets, and we don't have lubrication systems at the same level that we have with the internal combustion engine. If we can make them aware of that, then I think people will slowly get on board with it. And there's always going to be people that just don't like the whole EV concept, and I don't think you're going to change their mind. It's funny, the division that winds up in a classroom now is EVs are great, or no, give me my internal combustion engine. And there's this line that you can draw through a classroom where people are on one side of the fence or the other. It's funny to see the demographics and the dynamics.
Just going to throw to Mr. Stephen Patterson at Fanshawe. Now, Fanshawe, of course, has a long history in training for the automotive space, for sure, for the trade. Does this ring true for what you're seeing there? Or are there some wrinkles?
Absolutely, Andrew. Kevin and friends here today are absolutely correct. We're constantly trying to overcome confusion about the industry, misinformation and uncertainty about these new technologies. And so, it's in some ways, not just industry, but consumers have this adaptation and adoption and confidence issues with EVTs. And some of the industry, with major players investigating hydrogen technologies, it creates a latency where people think, oh, is the EVT market is going to be as strong as predicted, or should I await a new technology? And so and of course the answer is that all alternative energies will be explored in good time, and so what we're constantly trying to inform folks to overcome the labor shortages and all the curricular lag that happens in apprenticeship. And so we're really excited about AIA and the leadership from the government on its SDF, because it's just so deeply needed to have a global, change management effort throughout the province. So very excited about this, but absolutely hearing and feeling all the things that friends here have felt and heard.
I guess I'll just throw this out to sort of everybody. Is there still some, I mean, I certainly read it in, often through sort of social media and social professional media posts, a lot of naysaying about EVs and the infrastructure can't handle it. And this is, I mean, while I haven't actually heard it said quite this way, it feels a little bit like, radio and television is a fad, And do you hear a little bit of that in the classrooms from the kind of more reluctant training subjects?
Yeah, it's a stopgap. It's a temporary solution. This is not the way the future is going to go. This is only here for a short time, and we'll be moving to hydrogen, and we'll be moving to other, sources of energy. And yeah, they're not wrong, but it's not going to be as short-lived as some people like to think it's going to be. I think the electric vehicles are going to be here for quite some time, and they're only going to get better, and they're only going to get more efficient. And one thing that I love to tell the students when they say, oh, well, you've run out of electricity here, and how efficient is your internal combustion engine? We've talked about this, like at best 35% efficient, whereas your EV, 95 cents out of the dollar that you spent to charge it is actually going to push that car forward, whereas 35 cents that you spent out of the dollar for your ICE engine is only pushing that car forward. So like, how can you not understand that EVs are so much more efficient?
Right, right, right. And again, I'm sure you're all familiar with the stream of misinformation that goes on out there about this too. But something that kind of is a bit real is even though they've become more popular on the roads, and they're certainly dominating the headlines in the automotive business. Uh, they're still, they still make up a very small percentage of the vehicles that are actually on the road. And one of the concerns that was mentioned to me from a shop owner recently um, was that even his own technicians were concerned about how much time they would spend and money spent on investing in EV related training when they would only see kind of a tough problem every couple of months, maybe, just not a big volume of vehicles, right? Is that, how do you address that sort of a concern, within the classroom spaces?
I think that'd be a great question for SAFA. You've done a lot of diag on some EVs. And yeah, while you may only be seeing a problem every 2 or 3 months, there's only 5% of our driving force is EVs. But as that number continues to grow exponentially and they come out of warranty, you've seen the repairs, Safe. What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years when the EVs grow in popularity?
Well, as it sits, I believe that there's going to be this, oh, well, we didn't get all this training. So there's going to be these vehicles that roll in. If they don't get up to date with training right now, they're going to roll in and people are going to be like, well, I don't know, I'm too far behind. So if technicians and shop owners don't take this training, they will fall behind. That's going to happen. And I already see it. I see so many shops sending me work. Um, and what happens is that I'll have like 5 EVs sitting outside, and they're not even actual my customers. These vehicles, the owners of vehicles, are not my direct customers. They are from different shops down the road that don't want to take the training or just don't have the time, anything like that. So with this EV upskill program that we have, we try to tailor it around, and we try to get them excited around EVs because we know at the end of the day they are going to need this training. They can't just do tires and oil changes and brakes and say, you know what, let's say a vehicle comes in, an EV comes in for tires, brakes, and then they say, oh, you got that electric motor issue or the high voltage issue. We can't touch that, and then ship it out. Well, if you keep shipping out all those, let's say all that work, that's money just going out the door right there. And at the end of the day, the customer is going to think and say, you know what, why am I going to 2 different shops? I could just go to that one shop and get everything done there. So they will lose business, and they're going to realize that. In my classes, whenever we have a chat, we have a discussion, I actually ask them, I say, what are the challenges you find? And they say, well, the biggest challenge, I know we're going to shift a little bit, but is the right to repair. So basically, access to information. That is a really big challenge for a lot of our shop owners that come to training. They say, hey, okay, let's go ahead and service this EV, but can we get all the information, all the specs, all the ranges that we need to safely repair this vehicle? So that's another challenge too, where they say, I'm going to bring in a manufacturer. Let's say there's a manufacturer that gives you a certain type of shutdown procedure on an electric vehicle, and they give you just a little bit of information. They don't give you everything in depth. That could be very dangerous. So that's another thing. So whenever we talked about earlier about safety, about people being afraid, that's another reason they're afraid. They're not getting all the information. They're getting pieces of this EV technology. So I would say that is those are the things we're seeing in the industry. For whether it's from in the classroom or in the shop, it's basically we have lack of information. We have people that are scared, and whenever vehicles are coming in for repairs, people are sending them out to different specialty shops, right? So shops that specialize in electric vehicles. They're not fixing them themselves.
Right, right. So, if I remember back to my, school days, usually in math class, which was not my strong point, they always talked about building blocks, you know, you got to learn this part because down the road, if you don't get this easy stuff, you're not going to get the harder stuff down the way. Is that kind of what we're talking about here, Mr. Patterson?
I think so. And so, I mean, we've talked a little bit about the public perception and assessment of EVT, but it's being assessed, as was suggested earlier by Kevin. It's being assessed in its current steady state, and folks have to understand that that's going to evolve extraordinarily quickly. To involve energy recovery systems within the braking systems on vehicles, solar energy, et cetera, et cetera. So there's so much that's going to happen to evolve EV technology within the next 5 to 10 years that it's kind of unfair to assess it. And absolutely, we're going to have to follow that thread and keep current on what's happening and when, because it's not going to be the same technology in a decade that it is now. And so we just have to continue to keep our fingers on the pulse of a very fast moving technology and do our best to make good use of it. So
Yeah. So Beth, you know, where do you see this? You know, where are we at now with this initiative, and where do you see it going down the road?
Well, that'll be a really interesting question. So right now, we started this with Implement Ontario funding from Government of Canada, Government of Ontario. So one thing I do want to say, Andrew, is this is free training, right? This is not people having to pay for. So we started this at a single site with St. Lawrence College, running the two programs, career exploration and the EV upskilling. And the response was huge, overwhelming. For free training, people often drop off. People stayed to the end. They wanted more. They wanted, you know, add more modules. Tell me when you're doing more training. So this year we're able to collaborate also with Conestoga College and Fanshawe College. So the amount of interest in this and people willing to travel to get this training is huge, because I think the auto care industry, you know, as much as I hear the hesitation, there are a lot of shops that recognize that they don't want to turn this business away, and they want to get at least one or two of their techs involved in this training. So we are hopeful and will actively pursue ways to continue this training, because we see you know, as Safe has said, the right to repair is all mixed up with workforce development, right? We want Canadian consumers to be able to have their car repaired where they want, by the person they want to have it repaired, but we need to make sure that those people are appropriately trained, and that we've attracted people as we have this generational change coming. We need really great people, and you know, people that are exploring this career. It's not the same as being a mechanic was, you know, 25 years ago, right? There's a lot more computers, there's a lot more diagnostics, the software skill, you know, awareness that you need to have. So just making sure that we're, you know, on the forefront of making sure that people understand that this is where this is going, and we're here to help you make sure that we can all benefit and make sure that Canadian consumer benefits.
Yeah, I mean, one or more shop owners have expressed to me one of the reasons that they wanted to pursue, call it an EV initiative in their own shops, was because they felt that it attracted a you know, a different type of you know, young budding prospective apprentice candidate who maybe wasn't interested in working on ICE engines, but the EV for whatever reason sort of excited them more than you know, they might not have been excited about cars from yesterday, but boy, EVs really excite them. Is this ringing true in the classrooms? I'll start with Kevin.
Probably is a level of accuracy to that statement. The internal combustion engine, depending on how you were brought up. I mean, I was brought up in an area where you saw the dirty, stinky diesels, and it was, you know, full of the tail end of muscle cars, and you could smell the exhaust, and there was, you know, catalytic converters were fairly new. So depending on the environment you were brought up in, or the genre that you were brought up in, you may have been turned away from, you know, the internal combustion engine. But if you grew up playing with radio controlled cars, and I shouldn't say playing because some of them are pretty advanced, then that may have spawned an interest in cars, but not on the internal combustion engine side, but more on the electric side. And, you know, I had a friend 12, 15 years ago now that had one of the first home-built EV cars in Canada. It was one of 12 licensed for the road in Canada, and it was an old Honda Civic that he had gutted and turned into an electric vehicle, and it ran off in 96 volts. So there's a certain kind of interest in something like this that, and I don't know what triggers it or what sets it off, but I would say you're accurate in that there are a generation that will grow up wanting to work on cars, but they only want to work on the EV side of things, or they're leaning towards the EV side of things because that technology is kind of cool, and the voltage doesn't scare them, and nor should it scare anybody as long as you're following the proper, you know, procedures and test points and safety precautions. I mean, you've got that kind of voltage plus in your house all day long, and nobody's worrying about walking in the front door of your own home.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. What about safe? Is this what you're seeing? Is there a way to use this to help market the industry in a way?
Yeah, there is. There's a big brand out there that people really enjoy, right? So when you tell them, oh, well, this is going to be here, this car is going to be there, they're all over it. They love all the special functions that EVs have, launch control that is very instant, right? I don't know if you've ever driven a Model S or anything like that, but so that's just one type of EV, and the instant torque, they love it, especially this generation. They love the instant torque because if we're dealing with an internal combustion engine, we still have that lag, right? If you jump in an EV, you get that instant torque right away, and that really makes them really intrigued with it. The other thing is that there's a lot of tweaking you could do, a lot of tuning. There's a lot of different companies out there that are doing a lot of reflashes on regular electric motors and their controllers and making them go very fast. Different companies out there. And It's like Kevin said, the technology, it's all about how they got brought up, right? Was it with the internal combustion engine, or was it with more electronic side? And a lot of these vehicles, you could play like video games inside of them, right? You could play Mario Kart, all that. So that really gets to their level, right? And they're like, wow, we could do all this. You can change different noises for the horn, all of that. You can play music from the outside speaker of the virtual sound system. So it's all about the electronics, I would say, because nowadays everything is electrified, right? Your phone, you got Facebook, you got Instagram, all of these other social media stuff where everything is so interconnected, and they love that. They're like, "What? My car is controlled. My car gets updates through the internet. That's amazing. It's like my phone." So I would say that it's because of that whole technology thing that the youth are really intrigued in. So whenever I have the youth come by at the college, like let's say grade 11, grade 12, and it's like a career exploration time or something, and they come in and they take a look at these vehicles, they right away run, they forget about the internal combustion engine vehicles that are there, and they run straight to the EVs. They're like, wow, this is an EV, this is really cool. Can I drive it? This and that, right? So that's another thing too. So running the skills development from doing the career exploration, I find that most of them, when they came in, because we geared the career exploration to be around EVs, found it to be really successful because we geared it around electric vehicles. So it's a new technology, right? So people are thinking it's not just teaching you oil changes and this and that, it's teaching you maintenance, but on an EV level as well. So
That's an interesting point you made, Safe, with regards to the technology being the attraction. I mean, when I was growing up, I was a gearhead. Nobody in my family was. My father wasn't, but I always had this attraction for cars. And now maybe it's not the noise or the sound that is attracting technicians to the industry, or apprentices to the industry, but it's the technology that's attracting them. Hey, that's cool. It's connected. I can do this. I can broadcast sounds. I can, you know, multiplex the lights on the car. And it's the technology that is actually drawing them in, not the fact that it's a vehicle.
Yeah.
yeah.
Beth, I'm just gonna we're gonna coming close to the end here. Just yeah, how important, how critical is this initiative and ones like it, maybe to expand the road to the kind of continued success of the automotive aftermarket?
Well, I think it's critical. at this point. AIA Canada is committed to looking for ways to increase the training and the workforce development. We recognize that if we don't have this level of upskilling and new market attraction for our tradespeople, especially in the small and more remote areas, those small garages are not going to be able to be sustainable, and that takes away consumer choice. So we really see that it is important, not only, I mean, this is an Ontario-based program, but we see this, you know, nationally. We need to make sure that our workforce is ready for the cars that are coming, the cars that we have today and the cars of tomorrow. So for us, it's critical, and having that government collaboration with our post-secondary partners. We need to just be on top of this, because as Stephen recognized, right, the change in apprenticeship training, that's going to take time, right, to get these new things in there. So one of the things that's really nice about this training is that it's open to higher level apprentices as well as licensed techs, because we want apprentices, as they get in there, they're ready to go, right? We want them to have that. So I think it's crucial.
Excellent. How does you know, a shop or an individual access this program?
So the easiest way to start off is to visit our website, EV-Training.ca, and there's an overview of both streams, the career exploration and the EV upskilling, and a way to just request more information. And then one of our program coordinators will reach out and give you the details on what's happening. There is training in 3 specific locations. It's hands-on, in-person training at St. Lawrence College, Cornwall, Conestoga College in Guelph, and the main campus at Fanshawe College in London. So, you know, trying to hit a big geographic area. Happy to chat with anyone who's remotely interested.
Excellent. That's excellent. We'll put that in the show notes for the podcast, and as well as for the where you're seeing this as an on-demand you know, video presentation. So EV-Training.ca.
CA.
Is it? And just before I let everybody go, I wanted to remind everyone to take a moment, visit righttorepair.ca. If you have a want to become a grassroots champion, do that. Information is there. Talk to your local elected officials, keep the ball rolling forward on right to repair in Canada. Super important for consumer choice, and, you know, the health of both the vehicles on the road, as well as you know, a shop here or there in Canada, right? So anyway, thanks everyone for joining me today. This has been great, fantastic initiative. Learn more at ev-training.ca, and talk to you next time.